This is the Polygon Collosus N8XE, and all it takes is one look at its Fox factory suspension and Shimano XT group set to know that it means business. I, on the other hand, with the baby on the way, am not quite up for all this bike has to offer. But what I am most grateful for today and what I can capitalize on is the powerful Shimano motor. So today, I'm going to take this beautiful bike out for a spin on the equally gorgeous trails of Bellingham, Washington, as well as throw in some extra footage of Polygon's pro riders ripping on the N8XE to make sure you get a chance to see all it's capable of. But first, leave your cycling-related little shredder names down in the comments below for this future BikesOnline presenter. The Collosus N8XE is at the highest end of Polygon's full-power 160mm e-mountain bike enduro bike. At the heart of the bike is Polygon's one-of-a-kind IFS suspension, or independent floating suspension. Polygon's use of a 6-bar design allowed them to independently tune various kinematics to create an impressively plush yet supportive feel. This makes for a bike that is equally fun and capable in both steep and chunky terrain, as well as on massive jump lines. Polygon has also made sure to include features that make this bike really easy to live with, like a down tube protector and even room for a water bottle, despite the extra space taken by the battery and IFS linkages. Lastly, every size Collosus has clearance for big old 29 by 2.6 inch tires, which is becoming increasingly rare on e-mountain bikes. And that's a great segue to start talking about some of the awesome geometry that you'll find on the N8XE. Starting with one of my personal favorites, the 435mm chainstays. These shorter chainstays help keep the bike nice and maneuverable on tighter trails and in the air. It also has a 77-degree seat tube angle, which puts you in a comfortable upright riding position, perfect for a high-powered e-bike like the N8XE. Up front is a 64.5-degree head tube angle, which is on the steeper side of the spectrum, once again keeping the bike surprisingly nimble, even given its size and travel numbers. Now though, let's move on to the bread and butter of the N8XE, the Shimano EP801 drive system. The EP801 motor puts out an impressive 500 watts and 85 Nm of torque. Not only that, but Shimano recently released a race-focused firmware update, enabling riders to eke even more power out of the system. And I think this is a perfect fit for the performance-oriented build of the N8XE. Powering the EP801 motor is a 630 watt-hour battery, which, in my opinion, is the perfect balance between weight and range. Speaking of range, I actually did a range test a little while back on the more value-oriented build of the Collosus e-bike and was able to get nearly 40 miles or 65 kilometers of single-track riding in one charge, and that's bound to be even further on this lighter, higher-end model. Speaking of weight, my size small N8XE tips the scale at 56 pounds without pedals, which is pretty good for a hard-charging, full-power e-enduro bike. This low weight is thanks in large part to the top-tier components found on the bike. First and most notably is a full lineup of Fox factory suspension, including a Fox 38 fork and Float X2 shock. In addition to keeping the weight down, these provide the highest level of adjustment, featuring low and high-speed compression and rebound damping, and maximal small bump sensitivity from the nearly frictionless Kashima coating. Speaking of Kashima, Polygon's also thrown in a Fox Transfer Factory dropper seat post as well. The N8XE also gets Shimano's latest XT group set. The XT drivetrain has been a favorite of mine for years, and I've been equally impressed with the electronic Di2 shifter and derailleur spec'd here. The shifts seem somehow even smoother than the analog version, which is especially important on a powerful e-bike. Even more impressive though is Shimano's new auto shift technology that uses the motor to spin the chainring and shift gears without you needing to pedal. This is super clutch while climbing tough technical sections of trail. When it comes to slowing back down again, the 4-piston XT brakes and 203mm rotors are a perfect match for the kind of speeds the N8XE is capable of. Polygon hasn't cut any corners with cockpit setup either, and the bike comes with Race Face's Affect R bars and stem. Lastly, the N8XE comes with 29 by 2.6 inch Schwalbe Magic Mary tires with a super gravity casing front and back. I've spent a lot of time on these tires on my Collosus N9 and have been absolutely blown away by their performance. Their consistent grip and braking bite encourages you to carry a little extra speed into those corners and loose sections of trails. So at this point, you're probably wondering how all this spec really shows up on the trail. And if I had to sum it up in just one word, the word would be powerful. Unsurprisingly, the EP801 motor makes you feel like a hero while climbing steep fire roads. But what did surprise me just a bit was how composed it felt climbing windy single track as well. The relatively short wheelbase made for natural and intuitive handling, even in techie sections and tight switchbacks. And of course, on the way back down, the legendary IFS frame design, paired with some of the best suspension products on the market, encouraged an equally powerful riding style. For obvious reasons, I didn't get to push this bike quite as hard as I would have wanted, or as hard as it really deserved to be pushed. But my overall takeaway was just how similar it felt to its non-powered cousin, the Polygon Collosus N9. Both bikes have a way of feeling plush and bottomless on big hits and through rock gardens, while still being plenty supportive when railing berms, pumping rollers, and of course, popping off lips. I, for one, can't wait to take this thing out next summer and truly put it through its paces. To conclude, the Polygon N8XE really stands as a testament to just how fun and playful a modern e-bike can be. The powerful Shimano motor makes climbing a breeze, and at the same time, the well-thought-out geometry and top-tier components make it every bit as composed and enjoyable on the way back down. Now, if all this is sounding right up your alley, but you need to save a little bit more money, drop the X and try the N8E. I spent a lot of time on this bike last year, and I'd say that despite costing significantly less, it's still 90% as capable. I've mentioned it already, but if you're interested in the same descending performance, but without the motor, then you should take a look at the Polygon Collosus N9. This was my go-to bike park rig all last summer, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint. So if you have any questions remaining about the N8XE or really any of Polygon's Enduro lineup, drop me a comment below. While you're down there, like and subscribe to BikesOnline channel where I'll be hanging out. And after you've done that, get out there, grab your bike, and get ripping.